Why do they call it a wisdom tooth?
Don't know.
I'll bet they make you smarter, and that's why dentists want to keep them for themselves.
Could be. How much longer till we get there? It'll be a while yet. Can you turn on the radio? I don't feel like talking right now. Okay.
Dripping blood and making wine.
What even is this? You've got it set to tapes. Try the radio. Oh. Guess we're stuck with the tapes. What are you thinking about? Work, your mom, lots of things. I think I'd rather talk about something else. Like what? Hummingbirds? Why do you want to talk about that? They're like a metaphor. Well, I mean, they are a metaphor. I think of them when I think about being happy. Like, if you want hummingbirds in your garden, you have to plant flowers and water them every day and make sure the soil pH and the salinity and the aeration are all just right. Yes! But at the end of the day, when you sit on the porch, you look out and you hope you'll see a hummingbird. But you never know if you will, because it's up to them whether they show up or not. Like Mom? Can we talk about something else? But I miss her. Why don't you like each other anymore? It's not like that. We still like each other, we're not good for each other. She says you're obfuscate. I'll bet she does. That's why it's better we're doing different things. It's not good for you when you say things like that about each other. Should she not say that? She can say what she wants. I mean, but we just want to make sure that we can take the best care of you that we can, and we realize it's better if we take turns than if we try to share that. Like a toy doll? You're so much more than a toy doll, sweetheart. Where'd you get that idea? I don't know. Ah, there it is. Where? Look, right out there on the horizon. That's what we're working on. The space gun? Well, it used to be a space gun, I guess, but now it's going to be something much better. It's going to send people all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, but not into space. Imagine how ridiculous it would be to launch people all the way into outer space just to save a few hours on a flight like that. Didn't they want to send people to Venus? Well, yeah, but first they wanted to send habitats. That was why they wanted such a big one back then. They were going to shoot seeds for big floating cities people could live in. That would be so cool! Well, yeah, it would have been amazing, but it was just too big. They tried to launch a few, but the gun just got too old before it was big enough to get them all the way into space. You can actually see some of the old seed pods here and there. Then what happened? Well, the gun got big and old, and one day a big wind came in and knocked it over. What we're growing now is on top of the toppled stump of that old gun. Wow! Yes, wow. Are you going to shoot anything into space? Why would you want to? It'd be so cool. The pictures of Venus that Miss Wimple shows are so cool and red and orange and yellow. It's like a big mango and the sunset lasts for 2 weeks and you can't breathe the air because it'll melt your lungs. And you want your lungs melted, do you? It'd feel neat. Like when you drink that fizzy orange drink. Of course, I'll have to try it. It's so big! Just wait until we get closer. We're still an hour away. It's so much bigger up close. I want a nap. Wake me up when we get there? Sure thing, sweetheart.
Lose me in your blood red sea. Lose me in your ecstasy.
Honey in your coffee, honey on your arm, sun on your face in the early morn. Tell me all the things that are keeping you warm, and tell me all the reasons why you do the things you do, and tell me why your eyes are so blue, 'cause honey I miss you. Steam rising up from the cup, happy little ghosts wanna give you life, happy little ghosts playing with the light. Don't worry, none, little ghost, it's alright. Don't worry, none, little ghost, it's alright. Feel the pull of the wool, soft and warm, calling me back to sleep. But I can't sleep, 'cause I got a hunger so damn deep. Flapjacks in the pan can never be as warm or as soft as your hand. Sizzler eggs and the bubbly tea, calling me, telling me it'll be alright. Don't worry, none, little ghost, it's alright. Don't worry, none, little ghost, it's alright. Honey bug still got your mug, fill it up with tea. Honey bug, wish I knew why you went and where you flew into while yonder. 'Cause honey, I wish I knew the answer. Honey, why you do the things that you do, and honey, why your eyes are so blue. But it's a hideous bell, chimes 12:30, and it's time for the world to end. Trying to make my way up for air, but it seems I've got the bend. So hand me the needle and tell me everything you wanna hear. Tell me all your deepest, darkest hopes and dreams and fears. I'm running from this year. So hand me the needle and tell me everything you wanna hear. Tell me all your deepest, darkest hopes and dreams and fears. The needle is for the diver to repair his air hose, because in the song there's a hole in the air hose and he needs to sew it shut. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Wouldn't that be really hard? Yeah, you know what, sweetheart? You're right. I don't think the diver's gonna get very far that way. Oh, you can see it! It's so much bigger now! Yeah, I told you. See, now you can see a lot more. You can see the two main rails right up there on top of the old space gun. And you can see those towers up there, the spiky ones. The ones that look like needles? Yeah, the ones that look like needles. Those are lightning rods. They're lightning collectors, actually. So when they get hit by lightning, they store the electricity to charge up the railgun. I want to see that! Well, maybe you will while we're here, but if there is a big storm with lightning, we have to watch from inside. Why? Well, lightning is very pretty, but it's also very dangerous. If it hits you, it can kill you. Huh. Like that bug zapper we have on the porch at home? That's what lightning does. That's so cool! I just feel sorry for the bugs, though. Then why do we we have it.
Well, it wasn't really my idea. Hey, with the towers coming up, I'll bet the radio would work. Do you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
En explosion, et hjerte, der banker med 120. Min hoved fryser til lige her, paralyseret. Forsvinder som solen bag mure af beton. Silhouetter med ruder, der blinker i solen som strobelys. Ligesom du gør, hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu. En lydløs larm, en actionfilm i slow motion. Et blomster har glitrer i skyggerne nu. Ligesom du gør, hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu. Ligesom du gør, hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er. Himlen er orange, kan du se det derfra? Hvor du er nu.
I am a young sailor, and I am hopeless. Oh, once I was carefree, and a brave sailor lass. I courted a lassie by night, by day. Ah, but now she has left me and sailed far away. Oh, if I was a blackbird, could whistle and sing, I'd follow the vessel my true love sails in. Oh, and in the dark again, I would there build my nest. I'd flutter my wings for her lily white one striking love letter to my true love I'd send. I'd tell my sorrow, my grief and my pain. Now that she's gone, left me in yon flowery land. Oh, I sailed o'er the ocean, my fortune to see, though I missed her caress and her kiss on my cheek. I returned and I told her my love is still warm, but she turned away lightly, and great was her scorn. Oh, if I was a blackbird, could whistle and sing, I'd follow the vessel my true love sails in. Oh, and in the top rigging I would there build my nest. I'd flutter my wings o'er her lily white breast. Oh, I offered to take her to Bonnie Brook Fair, and to buy her fine ribbons to tie up her hair. Oh, I offered to marry and to stay by her side, but she says in the morning she sails with the tide. Oh, if I was a blackbird, could whistle and sing, I'd follow the vessel my true love sails in. Oh, and in the top rigging I would there build my nest, and I'd flutter my wings.
This song is boring. Can we do something else? Like what?
Can
you tell me a story? Yeah, sure. Which one? Racky Tam! Oh, yeah, you used to love those stories. I thought you grew out of them. Nuh-uh. Goblins and pirates are so cool! Some of the kids at school didn't like my drawings, though. Well, you tell those kids that Racky Tam, the Goblin Pirate Queen, will hang them up by their toes if they give you any more sass. Hang them up by their toes and tickle them with a feather. Find them, bind them, tie them by the toesies, throsies, tickle them till they laugh and cry and pee. Where were we in the story? Everyone was going to get water on Scuttlebutt Island, remember? Uh-huh. The island that Orga said not to go to no matter what? Uh-huh. And they had a campfire. Okay, I think I remember now. Tam returned to dreaming. As the fire crackled, her eyebrows furrowed, and she kicked fitfully. Primrose opened her eyes. Across the coals of the fire she saw Tam, restless but sleeping. It was so dark in the jungle and so quiet. The world narrowed down to an island with just the two of them on it. Warmth bloomed in her chest, seeing her companion safe and warm. Someone so close, and yet so far. Did she know? Prim couldn't know, because she had never said a word. The crack of a stick. Prim looked behind her back into the endless dark. not a whisper of light for her eyes to catch. She turned back to see Tam. Tam's body, held in jaws of bleached bone, a vast serpent with naked skeletal coils dyed red by the firelight. Tam was limp, bleeding from bite wounds and with bones broken by the force. It had come so fast. How was Prim to know? With one great snap, the serpent swallowed Tam, and as she passed through the jaws she was unraveled, uncoiling like a black garment, as one stray filament is pulled free from the hole. Prim screamed in anguish and fear as she watched the one she loved vanish into the dark. Wait, what's a filament? What's a filament? It's a filament. It's like a string. Or a wire. Like hair? Well, not like your hair. Your hair is more like, bubbles. A filament is just anything like long and thin that can be tied into knots or stretched around. I guess it's just, yeah, it's a string. Okay. Should I keep going? Yeah. Tam awoke with a start, covered in a cold sweat. Her neck wrenched with the torque as she turned to search for Prim. She saw her there, restless but sleeping. Warmth bloomed in her chest, seeing her companion safe and warm. And didn't you just say that? No, the first time it was Prim thinking about Tam. Now it's Tam thinking about Prim. Okay. Reaching for her staff, Tam sat upright to shuffle the coals and nourish the fire. A silence like death fell over the island of light. She glanced up at Prim. Just behind her was a shape of white, with 2 black holes cut out from it. Its jaws opened to show glistening rows of teeth, ready for the kill. In a heartbeat, Tam was up and kicking a shower of red-hot coals at the thing with her staff. "Wake up!" she screamed as she vaulted over the fire and Prim to land squarely on the sinestral skull. The thing was off like lightning, and by some miracle Tam's hands found the snake's eye sockets, and she was able to cling to it for dear life as leaves and branches threatened to topple her off. Her staff had fallen, and all she had was the knowledge that it must be her or the beast that would die this night. In the distance she could hear the crew shouting and giving chase behind her. Oyster arose quickly, and with decision on their mind. The path of destruction was clear, from which an evil thing had come and went. Oyster took nothing, but gave chase. In the confusion it wasn't clear how, but Lobster followed close behind with a barrel in hand. The 2 barreled through the forest at top speed, tripping over roots and slipping in thick mud and rotting leaves. The darkness slowed them down, and Lobster raised their hand to raise an illuminating flame. If Oyster had not grabbed their shoulder and held them back, it would have been Lobster's last act. An archway of bone lay before them, twice their height and just as wide. A long, evil croak arose from just beyond the arch. "Burn it!" roared Oyster as Lobster's hand came to life with fire and hurled a miniature sun through the arch. For a moment, the light revealed the inside of an enormous frog's skeleton. In the same instant, the light vanished, swallowed whole by the thing. Lobster and Oyster tumbled to the side as this mountain of bone came hurtling at them with the force of a hurricane. Oyster turned around, and with a will heaved the barrel at the skeleton frog. The barrel erupted in splinters on the nose of the thing, but it continued barreling after them. Oyster and Lobster ran like their lives depended on it, crashing through trees and bursting through logs like twin cannonballs. They barely had time to process what was happening, as they each heard the rumble of something tumbling through the trees right in front of them. "Open the frog's mouth!" came a cry from above. With nothing else to guide them but the heat of the moment, the 2 burly trolls dug their heels into the mud and turned to face the frog, deftly flanking it on either side, grabbing its jawbones and wrenching them up into their maximum, straining and crackling sinew as they did. The impact was enormous, a bullet train of undulating bone and fury hurtling into the frog's mouth, its ribs and spine catching the sides and thrashing them back and forth as it did. The trills held strong like stone bastions against the force of shattering, splintering bone on bone. A fragment of the snake's tail caught Oyster's hand, and they were forced to let go, allowing the frog to wrench itself free. The behemoth bounded past the two trolls in its rage and confusion. All that remained of the snake was a short stretch of tail, which writhed on the ground. Oyster used their good hand to pick it up, cracking it like a whip. A boom of thunder sounded, startling Oyster and Lobster so that they jumped into each other's arms. They burst out laughing at the moment, as the rain began to fall. Lobster stopped laughing. Wasn't Tam on the snake? "Oi!" Tam called from above. She swung precariously from Primrose's arms, who was herself caught up by the ankles in vines. "Little help?" Climbing trees is not in the nature of trolls. They spent most of their time in the tunnels, away from the sun, digging for sulfur and ore. But Oyster and Lobster were no ordinary trolls, as might be guessed by their occupation. They adapted themselves to a peculiar task in a peculiar way. Tam and Prim hung entangled in the vines of an ancient tree. The trolls set to work punching the trunk on either end, making splinters out of decades of growth in minutes. As Oyster decimated the last of the trunk, Lobster ran ahead to control the tree's descent. As the tree began to tilt, Lobster put their hands on the trunk, slowly taking on the weight as it came down, following it step by step as it lowered. With an uncanny motion, the tree came steadily down, though its weight should have toppled it like a hammer blow. Lobster appeared almost compressed with the weight, and Oyster came along behind to stabilize the tree. When they were just a few meters from the ground, Prim and Tam hopped down onto the soft moss below. "We're down," called Tam. With a sigh of relief, Oyster and Lobster hurled the tree off to the side, thundering as it finally came to earth. The crew reunited with giddy laughter and an electric sense of their collective near-death experience. Prim piped up, "Did anyone see where the frog went?" Oyster replied, "No, but it left the snake's tail behind," rattling the bones as they held it up. "Wrong end, wrong god," Tam lamented. "What do you mean?" asked Prim. "We need that frog's head," Tam explained, testing out a heavy branch as a staff. "And why might that be?" Prim pressed with a note of suspicion. "Souvenir," Tam said with a wink as she hopped onto the fallen tree. Since the tree was the closest thing to a path in the forest, the crew chose to travel along it as they worked their way back to camp. The moss was slippery in the rain, and the thunder had risen to a constant rumble across the island. Lobster walked in front, holding up a hand clothed in fire to light the way. Tam and Prim hopped nimbly along together in the middle, and Oyster brought up the rear. The weight of the tree kept it from rolling as the crew walked, but occasionally it would creak and groan as if it was settling. Oyster stopped and knelt with their ear to the trunk, listening intently. "Hey, good news!" Tam called from up ahead. The goblin tried to help as Lobster hefted the prize in the air. "We found the skull!" she exclaimed triumphantly. "Where's the body?" Oyster called out. They could see the bones strain to lift the frog's broken neck out from under the tree, rising from the jungle floor, clothed in broken branches and torn vines like verdant flesh. "What does verdant mean?" It really just means green." "Why would you use a word like that if you just mean green?" This is writing. Sometimes people like to use fancy words for their writing." "That's dumb." Maybe it is. Let me try that again." They could see the bones strain to lift the frog's broken neck out from under the tree, rising from the jungle floor, clothed in broken branches and torn vines like green flesh. "That's better." "Thanks, hon." Tam turned to see the ruined hulk rising before her, and felt the jaw of the thing flex in Lobster's hands. "Oh, no you don't!" roared Prim as she slammed the body with her skillet. The crew gazed on in amazement as the diminutive goblin doggedly tore the skeleton to pieces, bones flying in every direction as she went. As the last vertebra fell to the ground, Oyster's mouth hung open in shock. Prim's breath came heavy, and a gleam had entered her eye like a mad dog's. She caught sight of the tail in Oyster's hand. Oyster dropped it and backed away with her hands up. In a moment she was there, whipping it against the ground the way you would to break a snake's neck. Lobster nudged Tam. Hell of a girl. Tam's eyes had taken on a dreamlike quality. Yeah, she swooned. Lobster gently placed the frog skull off the side of the trunk on the forest floor. Back on the ship, Orga sat on Tully's deck, meditating and feeling the wind on her back. Gulls cried out their harried song, and the waves stroked the shells of the shore. The weight of the boat shifted slightly, but all remained quiet. It is good to know that you are back safe, Captain, Orga said with a smirk. Tam, who had been looming behind her, rocked back on her heels and fell over heavily. Geez, I thought I had you that time. How do you always know? What kind of a seer would I be if I didn't? Orga chuckled. Lobster hopped onto the deck and turned to catch the 7 heavy barrels filled to the brim with fresh water as Oyster tossed them up. Primrose came after, Oyster gently lifting her up for Lobster to put her down on the deck. 7 barrels today. What happened to the last one? Orga asked, with a hint of the answer already on her tongue. Tam smiled wide. Those trails sure are steep, and the rain made those barrels slippery, and I dropped one on the Prim piped up. We had to use it to break up a couple giant skeleton monsters. Can you believe it? She smirked at Tam, who had suddenly taken a keen interest in Tully. And was Tully a good girl while I was away? Tam reached desperately for another conversation. Golba and Utano, the twin gods of the dead. The bones told us we would find them there. Orga returned with a tone that could cut glass. Oh, that's really interesting, and why, prithee, did you neglect to tell Tam about that little hiccup? Prim played at ignorance, but caught Tam in a death glare as she said it. Tam stuttered for a minute, trying to save face. Orga sighed. I did. She paused. Didn't she tell you? She added as one final twist of the knife. Lobster and Oyster exchanged a glance. They began slowly backing to the edge of the ship. Prim reached for her skillet, and Tam scrambled like a spring egg. Lobster and Oyster were over the edge with a splash. Who's hungry? She turned on her heels and walked towards the galley door. She tore it open and slammed it behind her, startling Tully in the process. Tam hesitated for a moment, then made to follow her. Orga held her staff up in Tam's path. I like you, Captain. You will live a longer life if you stay up here. Is that what the bones say? Tam shuddered. You are funny, Captain. Orga put her staff down in front of her. Tam sighed and went to join the trolls on the shore. She hung from the edge of the ship and muttered to herself. I don't see why. Wait, so Tam didn't tell the others about the giant skeletons? No, she didn't. But why would she do that? Wouldn't she want to get some help? Well, her plan was to distract the 2 creatures and beat them up herself, so no one else would get hurt. But they're her friends. Wouldn't they want to help? Yes, I'm sure they would, but Tam thinks that if someone is going to get hurt, it should be her. Why? Because she's the leader, and they wouldn't have been on the island without her decision. But they wouldn't have been surprised by the skeletons if she had told them about them. Yes, sometimes when we try to protect other people by keeping secrets, we actually make things worse. And that's why Primrose is so mad? Yes. Hey, look, we're here. Let me just land so we can start getting ready to walk up. We have to walk all the way up that? Yeah, I thought it would be fun, like a nice day trip. It only takes about 3 hours to walk up the hill. 3 hours? That's like forever! It'll be fine, you'll see.
We brought our nice new hiking boots, and we have plenty of trail mix and blankets and tents for when we get up to watch the first launch. But we're gonna have to carry all of those things. Well, most of those things are going to be with me in my backpack, so you won't have to carry very much at all, just yourself. But I'm heavy. I'm like a little sack of potatoes. Yes, you are. I'm a little sack of potatoes. I've always said this. But you are also a strong and resilient sack of potatoes, and I have every confidence that you will be able to make the journey. Pinky swear? Pinky swear. I'm tired. This is hard, and I don't want to go any higher. Hey, listen here, okay? This is the only night this is gonna happen, and it's gonna be worth it. You're gonna see the first test launch we've ever made. It's gonna be the best view of your life so far. But I'm tired, and my feet hurt, and it's cold and dark, and I want to go home. Here. Put this big nice blanket around you. I'll let you in on a little secret, okay? Okay. Part of me feels the same way. And it's not easy climbing up this old thing, and the weeds are thick, but I really, really want you to see this because I know you'll remember it when you're old and gray and feeble like me. So I'll make you an offer. You can stay wrapped up in that blanket, and I'll carry you, okay? All the way to the top? All the way to the top. Pinky swear? Pinky swear. Red lay back on the Kelpie's deck. The sun soaked through her. Exie came up on deck with a barrel of mead. They kept all the mead in the princess's boat, so drinks are on me today. Red looked up and back, giving a wolf whistle. Exie set the barrel down beside her and knelt down for a kiss. I know that whistle was for the mead, you goof. Far away from the two dragon slayers and their ill-gotten gains, Riles, the goblin princess, was back on the shore of Bell's Atoll. Her crew roared with one collective voice. "Where's the mead?" An angry mob of goblins had formed in the wreckage of the skiffs. Riles stood on a half-broken bow, with her right hand elm at her side. "Pipe down!" she cried out. A hush fell over the crowd. "The ships have been ruined by the sea monster, clearly the work of Reki Tam. We must rebuild them and rally a force to hunt her down, and then why we out on this island in the middle of nowhere?" A voice rang out from the crowd. "Who said that?" Elm put a hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. "There is one barrel of mead left." The crowd became as still as stone. "And if you lot keep this up, I'll dump it out on the sand." Riles stepped forward menacingly. "Now we need lumber to rebuild, and we need rations to replace what we lost in the harbor. The crews of the Kelpie, the Banshee, and the Huntress will begin felling trees in the harbor and clear out a camp. The crews of the Red Dog, the Dusk, and the Crow will go gather provisions. "Captains, see to it!" she roared back over her shoulders at 5 quivering forms. The setting sun cast long shadows across Tully and the ship perched upon her broad back, into which a foolhardy Tam had descended against Orga's advice. "You're not the only member of this crew, Tam," Primrose said evenly as she sliced through an oversized mushroom cap in the galley. Tam stood in the doorway, leaned against it with her arms crossed. "What?" She was taken aback by the idea. "You're so self-important you think the only way for us to win is for you to make some kind of heroic sacrifice. It's sick, Tam. None of us want to watch you die." Primrose chopped through the cap as she finished, and her eyes met Tam with a glint of tears. Tam deflated and leaned forward, wrapping her arms inwards. "I don't want that to happen to any one of us." "Then make a plan, Tam. Tell us what we're up against before getting us into it," Prim said. Lobster knew, and I assumed they'd tell Oyster," Tam stammered. "But you didn't tell me. And why would they tell me?" "Did you ask them to?" Prim queried. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want you to get hurt," Tam tried to justify herself. "How would not knowing about those demons help me at all. Prim raised her knife hand slightly. I was going to run, okay? I was going to get them to chase me and lead them off a cliff I'd seen in one of the charts. Tam began to break with the rising realization of what she'd done. What if they hadn't chased you? Prim's face darkened with rage. But it turned out fine, Prim, Tam pleaded. We would have been ambushed with no warning. Prim drove the point home. Well, that's Tam stammered. A knife rooted itself in the doorframe next to Tam's head. Exactly what happened, Prim yelled. Tam took a step back out the door. She didn't say a word. Mark my words, Princess, your luck will run out one day, and what will you turn to when you don't have that? Prim walked coolly to the knife block to pick up a replacement for the knife she had thrown. Tam paused and made as if to speak before stopping herself. When Primrose turned back to cutting up the mushroom cap, the doorway was empty. Why did they call it a wisdom tooth? Huh? A wisdom tooth? There's no wisdom tooth in the story. Yeah, I know. So what do you think? Well, if you don't get it removed, it can cause jaw problems later in life. So maybe the wisdom isn't in the tooth, but rather in letting go of it. Like Mom? Yeah. It's getting kind of dark. It's really scary out here when it's late at night like this. It's okay. You've got me here. If there are any giant skeleton monsters hiding in the woods, I'll beat them up for you. Like Racky Tam? Yeah, exactly. Like Racky Tam, the Goblin Pirate Queen. Can you let me help? Yeah, I'll let you help. If you want to, sometimes when it's dark, it helps me to sing a song. Do you want to try singing something? What should we sing? I don't really know. Maybe we should How about that song from the radio? Which one? The one that goes like, if I was a blackbird. Oh, yeah. How does it, should we do it together? Yeah. Oh, if I was a blackbird and could handle the pen. Oh, if I was a blackbird and could handle the pen. One striking love letter to my true love I'd send. Kinda weird. That's silly. I'm silly. If you were a blackbird and you could write, would that mean you'd use your own feathers as quills? Yeah, I'm sure a crow would use its own feathers for writing. That makes perfect sense. What do you think a crow would write about, though? Maybe stealing hot dogs? Oh, like the one that got stolen from you the other night? Yeah, exactly. What a jerk. Yeah, that crow was a bit of a jerk. That's true. Maybe it was actually a pirate crow, like Racky Tam. Yeah, what if one of Racky Tam's crewmates was a crow? Yeah, actually, what if Orga was a crow? That'd be really silly. Yeah, but it would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? Crows see far. Crows see the future. Do they? Well, why don't you ask them? Because they can't talk, silly. Yeah, they can't talk, but they can write. The stars are so big. You've never seen them like this back in Big London. I want to eat them. Oh yeah, what do you think they taste like? Sparkles. It's pretty silly, kid. I'm silly. And I love that about you, little snugglebug. Hey, look, that one just flew. Quick, make a wish. I wish for... No, don't tell me, silly bug. You have to keep it a secret. Otherwise, it won't come true. Oh. We're here.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6.
It's almost time.
5.
Watch.
4,
Is it gonna be loud?
2,
No.
1.